And that's what I would love to teach people, is how to treat yourself with cannabis before you get sick, before you need major medical care, before you need 2,000 and 3,000 milligrams a day to kill cells in your body. Because cannabis is marvelous at low doses, and it has been proven to do amazing things when used properly. But there's not a lot of people out there that know how to tell you to use it properly.
Welcome to the podcast where we talk about cannabis.
Community violation. Code Green Plant.
Hi, and welcome to Code Green Plant. I'm your host, Christy Chanel, and I'm here with Phoebe. Phoebe, how was your week?
Oh, it was busy. It was long, and it was busy, and I'm so glad it's the weekend. How about you?
Well, I went to Colorado.
Yeah, we have a lot to catch up on.
I know we do.
How was it?
It was so great. I was worried about the drive, okay, because I drove up with my dad and my stepmother and my son. And so I was like, it's going to be cramped, you know, I suffocated. It's going to be 12 hours of driving. Actually, it was quite the opposite. We got in the car, and after about 2 hours, I was like, this is freaking awesome. I don't have to drive. I don't have to think. I don't have to worry about anything. I can just put my headphones on and listen to a podcast, and no worries in the world. And when you're a single mom and you're out there and you got all these things going, I mean, even when you're any parent, any human, there's always things going through your head. So in this moment, there wasn't. And I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. On the way home, I did drive, I'd say about 80%, 75% of the way, which was good. But the best part was I got to go to 2 dispensaries. We had to pay with cash, but it was pretty cool. Then the second one we went into, they actually had, they checked our IDs, they ran it through a machine, and then we went into a waiting room and had to be let in. Mm-hmm. And then we went in there, and then they took our ID again, because you could only buy a certain amount.
Oh, okay.
And so what we're thinking, like, you can only buy, I forget how many grams it was. And I was thinking in my head, because, you know, I'm not a mathematician. I'm like, oh, so that's like probably 2 a piece, maybe 1 a piece. But when we did it, he had like 7 things he was buying, and it was fine for 1 person. So I was like, okay, this is cool. So we did get some stuff. My dad needed some CBN for sleep. Mm-hmm. And Vonda, we got some CBG with THC for her back. She had no pain. On the way there, she had to get up and get out every few hours to stretch, you know, because of her back issues. On the way back, she didn't even mention getting out and stretching. Not once.
Wow.
It was pretty incredible. So, of course, and then I got some CBC, which I had never even heard of, but it's good for brain clarity. And I have tried it, and I love it. I mean, I'm a fan.
That's awesome. Did you get any just straight up flower or anything like that to try?
I didn't get any flower or vape or anything like that. I'm a gummies girl, and I love gummies. I would have gotten some oils. Like I could have done oils. I like them too. Mm-hmm. But no, I haven't. I didn't get any flower or anything. So what would you get if you went in? What would be the first thing you got?
Usually flower and pre-rolls. And I look at gummies too. I like gummies, but I just like flower better than gummies even. Mm-hmm. So that's what I remember the first time I went in one, it was mind blowing to me. Like, it's legal. Like, oh, I'm not an outlaw walking in here. Like, mind blowing. Yeah, it's like at first you almost feel paranoid. Like, are we sure this is real? Like,
are they going to follow us out of here?
Right. But nope. Just walk in like any normal shop and shop away. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I loved it. And it just makes me just that much more excited to get a dispensary that's not just hemp derived, but the real deal that you can, you know, just go into and get what you need. And it's so great. Everybody's going to be so much happier with life. Really cool. We just interviewed Shannon, who I don't even really know how to describe her, really. What would you think would be the best description?
I can't say she's a doctor because she's not an official medical doctor, but she's just, I would go to her like she was a doctor, and I would trust her like she's one because she's so knowledgeable on the subject and just well-rounded knowledge of marijuana in general, CBD, all those things. I would definitely say she's a connoisseur.
Yeah.
but even
She
more
is.
than that, so.
But she's not somebody that's just observing. She actually had to go through things in life, dealing with prescription pills, military.
Yeah,
You know?
and hearing how she got into it was pretty interesting for me, because I didn't know if she's just like an old school smoker that, but no, she had a reason to discover it, and she did her research, and it's interesting how her story is interesting. It was very interesting.
And she just wants to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really important message. And I think Phoebe and I align with that mission. We also want to help people in any way we can, no matter what we talk about. We hope you tune in to listen to this podcast. And I bet you come away with a few questions. So please send Phoebe, send myself an email. It'll be linked below. And on the YouTube version, you'll see it on the screen right now. Tune in on Wednesday for a whole new episode.
Yes, and like Christy said, we will have her back for sure. So if you have questions, send them to us, and we will get them answered on our next time she's on.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even go out of our comfort zone to a live session. Oh, what do you think?
I think for sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I read a little bit about it.
Ooh, field trip. We're going to take the podcast on a field trip.
And do a little painting. You'll understand once you hear the episode. But thank you for vibing with us, and we will see you Wednesday. Click the subscribe and bell button to get reminded when we come out. Have a good one. How are you?
Excellent. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think I'm the most excited about interviewing you because I got to talk to you for that hour and a half a couple weeks back, and I didn't even prepare anything for this because you are like an encyclopedia of information. So I know that you're going to lead this conversation into the right area, and I'm excited for that.
Awesome.
I think that we get to know who you are a little bit, because I think once people learn who you are, they can start to connect with your stories a little bit better.
I'll tell y'all how I got into this. So I'm a disabled vet. I was in pain management therapy for 17 years, and they had me on prescription medications that caused way more damage than it ever fixed pain. So after the last, I was very severely ill. It ruined my heart. It ruined my nervous system. It ruined a lot of things. And the last time I was in ICU was the year right before COVID, 2019. And my pain management doctor is actually the one that first turned me on to the idea that it was the medication that I was taking because that was doing it. And so after we did some further research, I had decided to quit cold turkey and to go off of it. But of course, I didn't have any other recourse. You know what I mean? He's the one who suggested that I investigate plant medicine. And so I went home and did my detox, got off of the 2 prescriptions that they had me on, and sought out a friend who knew a little bit about cannabis. Luckily, I knew a lady who was a retired pharmacist. So shortly after trying it and it was working and getting me through, COVID happened. And during that time, I just completely turned to learning everything I could. Mm-hmm. So once I did that, I wanted to share that with everybody. And so that's how I took what I knew about herbs, continued on with my education, and became an herbalist that includes a full spectrum medicine. And I've had a lot of success, and like I said, my job is basically a giant double blind study. So, people have no reason to lie when they come and see me or when they talk to me about what we're working on or what we're doing on. And so just through my work with people, I have learned an insurmountable amount of information about this topic and about the truth of this topic. But I started out as a typical 80s kid. I believed the hype. I believed my mother had problems with addiction. She was a pill popper, but the only thing I knew of that she was taking was cannabis. So I blamed it on cannabis, and so it was really a huge learning experience, but I'm glad I was open to learning it because it was, it was the truth about cannabis was never what we've all been told. As we've talked about before, that was just a political move that they haven't since admitted to. But, and so now I just work on trying to educate people, and so it was really a huge learning experience, but I'm glad I was open to learning it because it was, it was the truth about cannabis was never what we've all been told. As we've talked about before, that was just a political move that they haven't since admitted to. But, and so now I just work on trying to educate people. So, I believe in cannabis, and yes, cannabis can be an abused drug if you are an abuser. It is not. It is not a drug that causes abuse, and especially not when used properly. And one of the great things I like about cannabis is if you do abuse cannabis, it fights back. And you can get sick. You have a lot of negative side effects, and you can actually make yourself sick enough to not be able to use it anymore. You make yourself essentially allergic to it. So if you do abuse cannabis, it doesn't exactly let you get away with it for very long.
I will say, after talking with you, I understand a little bit about what you do. You work with people and you do the journaling to see what works with their bodies with the cannabinoids.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And other natural herbs. I went to Colorado last weekend, and for the first time, I was able to walk into a dispensary, and I wanted to try for my stepmother's back a CBG, THC, maybe CBD combination, just to see how it would work on her inflammation and all that stuff. Obviously they can't do that. She doesn't want to get high, so she just wants a very low THC, but I know that you have to keep them all together. I loved it. Even though they didn't have what I needed, because obviously they make a very certain amount for people, and it's mostly about getting high right now. It's not about the medical side of it.
That's what I want to remind everybody about is it doesn't have to be for medical. You don't have to say, oh, I have this whatever. Properly used cannabis can improve the reason why we are all getting sick and needing medical medications in the first place. And that's one of the things I have seen is in the hundreds of people that I've worked with over the last 3 years, going into 4 years, is people who were able to avoid being sick in the first place because this pathway helped them be able to take care of their body and be able to get those stress hormones down and stop the progression of those illnesses that would have needed high dose therapy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would love to teach people is how to treat yourself with cannabis before you get sick, before you need major medical care, before you need 2,000 and 3,000 milligrams a day to kill cells in your body, because cannabis is marvelous at low doses. And it has been proven to do amazing things when used properly. But there's not a lot of people out there that know how to tell you to use it properly.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. If you could take us just, if I came to you, and I'm like, obviously you're saying to use it before you have a problem, but typically it's the problem that starts you to use it. So if I was to come to you and say, you know what, I am completely stressed out. What do you recommend? What would be our game plan?
So I would ask you a couple questions about, so one of the things nothing is going to help with is if you aren't ready. So I can usually kind of get a feeling for whether or not you're there to get high or you're there to get better. So we'll and we talk a little bit about your experience. Have you had any experience with these herbs? And if so, what was it? Because a lot of times we have to be really careful and around a bad experience. You go to your stoner friend and they give you a pot brownie and you're sick for 3 days. You don't exactly want to give it a try, but it can also affect how it's the placebo effect is in reverse. You can give someone a miracle drug, but if you tell them that it's demon spawn and they believe that when they take it, it's not going to be a miracle for them. So we kind of get on a level playing field. I try to make sure I answer any questions that they have about the subject, about cannabis. And then we move from there and we start. So for example, if I'm starting out with someone who's dealing with regular problems that America's dealing with, I'm anxiety, I have some depression, I'm having trouble sleeping, those kind of things, no major pain or major mood disorders that need to be quickly addressed. We start very low and we work our way up. And smoking is always fun, but it isn't necessary for daily balanced treatment. So, and I start everybody off on about 5 milligrams. I recommend, if they don't know how, or they don't have access to oil or whatever, I show them how to make that with their own material. So if they have to go down to Mary Jane's here, in their area and buy what they have, I show them how to turn it into RSO or FECO. How to get that medicine out of there so that you can control your dose. That's the first thing I try to teach them is this part over here isn't recreational. This part over here is your daily. And we kind of get that in there. And then once we spend a couple days seeing how, the cannabinoids that we have mixed together for you work for you, then we kind of go from there. Do we need to add some mullein? Are you a smoker? Do you need some tea? So then we add in the herbs on top of that slowly, one at a time, until we build up a platform where you feel better. But basically you need to start, but with pain patients, it's different. With pain patients, pain is much easier to keep and get under control than it is to chase. So pain patients, we start them on a very high dose, get their pain out of the way, turn their receptors off so that they stop registering that pain all the time. And then we taper them down until they have a day where they're just not in any pain. They're not high. They just feel great. And then that's kind of where we work with that. So, but it's a lot of give and take, especially when we're first getting started. That's why we call the stoner journal. We need you to take notes, so that we can adjust quickly. Because that's the one thing that's really good about cannabis is if you take the thing that we decided to mix together for you tonight and it doesn't work for you, the great news is we can adjust it tomorrow. You know what I mean? You don't have to deal with it, because all of it is going to bring down the problems, the core problems, which is your cortisol levels have to come down. Those are your stress hormones, the hormones that keep you up at night, that make you feel jittery, that fight or flight feeling. All cannabis products will do that in moderation. It will bring those back down. But if you have too high of, say, a sativa and you're an anxiety person, you can make that person feel cracked out on a very low dose, but of the wrong strain, the wrong cannabinoids. So I monitor them really closely. If you take this and you don't like it, stop taking it. That's the one thing that's so beautiful about cannabis, with simple terpenes that you can add to it. So even if you have to go for what you have, I can teach you how to get terpenes, completely legal. All of them are. And say I have this CBD, but I have found that AK-47 works the best on my back pain. Well, we can take this CBD and then we can add those similar terpenes to it so that we can get a similar effect. So it doesn't necessarily have to be restricting as long as we have the right tools. But anybody who's helping somebody can also do that with just a little bit of knowledge. And that's the part that really frustrates me, is it feels like the attitude toward medical cannabis is, here, you wanted it, take it. And that's not right. You can really mess somebody up by giving them the wrong prescription, just like you can anything else. And it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to be terrified when you go to approach this plant, or you shouldn't have to be terrified that somebody's going to give you something that's going to psycho you out. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be your two fears.
Mm-hmm. So how many people do you typically work with?
I see my regulars about once a month. We come together because the rest of their herbs I have. Luckily this has opened the door to things like the mushroom, the beneficial mushrooms, and doing all of this. So we kind of have a little correlation going with that. But the greatest thing is that the people who observe them in their life, my regulars about once a month. We come together because the rest of their herbs I have. Luckily this has opened the door to things like the mushroom, the beneficial mushrooms, and doing all of this. So we kind of have a little correlation going with that. But the greatest thing is that the people who observe them in their life succeeding and feeling better and doing better, they wait for that question. What did you do? And then they say, let me introduce you to this lady and let's do this and stuff like that. But the great thing is while they're with me, they're learning, and they're taking that information that we're learning together and they're moving it forward. They're telling their friends, they're telling everybody. And that's my goal. My goal isn't to have a jam-packed shop full of people who need help. My goal is to teach a whole lot of people at one time how to help themselves and the people next to them. That would be my ultimate goal. Because I think there should be somebody like me in every neighborhood.
Yeah, I love it. And I really, really knew how much I loved it when I went and I was able to help her and she was out of pain. And she's like, I feel like a human again. And there was something to that. It made me feel really good. And I want to continue to share, for sure.
That's what happened to me. I mean, I was at the point of giving up. You know what I mean? I was like, I can't live this way anymore. I'm not going to make it out of the hospital again, or I'm not, I couldn't do it anymore. And to go from that to feeling as I'm in as little pain as I've been in since the inception of my injuries. And I'm having, I'm still having the consequences of the side effects of those drugs, but I can see them actively improving every month, every year. I can see more improvement and getting my life back. And I could not, when you see somebody and you meet them and they've recovered from something horrible, say they've recovered from cancer and it was this new great experiment. What is the first thing they want to do? They want to tell everybody, especially those who are suffering from the same thing. And that's what I want to do, is just tell everybody, this really does work if you're paying attention and you know what you're doing. But it doesn't work if you're just running around smoking as much pot as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a treatment. You need to view it as a treatment in this way.
And recreational, it can be fun too. However, just like any other recreational substance, in moderation. You know what I mean? In moderation. So, I mean, we all enjoy it every day, but still moderation.
Yeah. So you were telling me that you were on prescription medicine after you got out of the military.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what were some of the problems that were associated with these prescription pills?
So they put me specifically, because of my mother's pill popping, I knew how dangerous hydrocodone was. Thankfully. If not, that was the first thing they tried to give me. And thankfully I knew, no, I've heard of that. I can't do that. And by the time I allowed them to start giving me actual narcotics, I had children and they were very small. And I was like, I have to be able to function at home with my kids. And so they, I after going back and forth to many pain doctors, because remember, we're in the military, so we were also moving around every 3 years. A doctor came to me and said they created this new miraculous drug called tramadol, and it was synthetic, and you didn't build up a tolerance, and it wasn't addictive, and it was just fantastic, and it was all. And I said, great, fine, give it to me. And between that, and I also have a seizure condition, so I was also on all kinds of different seizure medications. At the end, I was on Keppra and gabapentin. So I was on 150 to 200 milligrams a day of tramadol, and 16 to 2,600 milligrams a day of gabapentin, plus 1,800 milligrams of Keppra. Those are the max doses on all three of those medications. And no one
10 years?
ever told 17. And every time something new would happen to me, like the first thing that really took me down was AFib. I got AFib. I was in my late 30s. I had AFib, severe AFib. And eventually at the age of 40, had to get an ablation done. But because I didn't know it was coming from the tramadol and the medications, I was still on the same medication, right? The doctor sent me home. And so sure enough, it came back. And so it eventually caused me to have a brain stroke in my brainstem. And that area of your body controls all the hormones in your body. Basically, it controls your autonomic system. You know what I mean? So it caused a lot of neurological problems in that deterioration. It totally destroyed my heart. So I have to be very, very careful with my heart because I can't get another ablation. You can only get one. It's only been 5. I need to wait 5 more years. So, and it made things worse. Like when I first came off the gabapentin, there were so many symptoms that I didn't realize drugs were causing. You know, I thought I had severe restless leg syndrome. I mean, I could not sleep at night. My legs would just jump like crickets and it was really horrible. Nope. After all the side effects had worn out of my body after I'd taken them, gone. I thought the pain in my back. Now I had never been able to get to a 0 resting point. Now I'm at a 0 most of the time. I mean, I still am in pain when I'm doing things, which is normal for someone with an injury, but I'm not in constant agonizing pain every breath I take. Like before, I wouldn't have been able to do this interview with you guys because I would have been so exhausted and out of breath by the time we've been talking for 20 minutes. You wouldn't have been able to understand me anymore. I sounded like I was constantly having a panic attack, and it was because my heart couldn't keep up.
Oh my gosh.
Like I said, I was in pain management therapy for 17 years. I never took an illegal drug in my life. I never took more than the doctor ever prescribed me. I went to my every 3-month appointments with my pain management. I took my urinalysis. They counted my pills. I never broke the rules, but they broke me. And the part of that frustrated me was I would talk to my doctors about things that were happening, and they would say the same thing they say now. Well, the benefits outweigh the risks. They never told me what those risks were. They never told me that continuing this could destroy my heart, that it could destroy my liver or my intestinal system. They never told me any of that. Never. They just said, well, are you in pain? Yes. Well, then you need the medicine. Well, the problem was you were giving me the medicine and I was still in pain. So I was taking all of these drugs and I was not getting yes, I was getting some relief. But they were like, oh, no, you need to be in 0 pain. And I'm like, I'm not willing to take more to get there. And that was the great thing about cannabis is I didn't have to take more. I just had to be consistent. You know what I mean? And the more consistent I was, the more and more and more those pain receptors went down, the more my cortisol levels went down, those pain hormones go down. And I got to the point where I was just like, wow, I'm not actually in any pain right now. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is behind that? That they're not telling you all the things it can do to you? Is it because the studies weren't big enough? They didn't have it?
And I truly don't know the answer to that. I would hate to, we learn a lot. We've been hearing and learning a lot of ugly things about doctors, catering to these insurance companies and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that, but I really think that it was a super storm of a lot of really bad opportunities, because the truth is that doctors really are chained to the insurance that controls the hospitals. And somewhere in our past, we decided to outlaw plant medicine and the things that we're supposed to be doing to prevent us from getting ill in the first place. And I think it's actually twofold. I think the way we have come about in society, those of us who were going to the doctors were rolling our eyes at the doctor and telling him to get stuffed, because we wanted the new latest and greatest super wand to make us feel better. And the trash that we were trying to quote herbal medicine that we were getting at our supermarkets was exactly that. It was unregulated trash that didn't work. So we never built any confidence in that medicine, and they were able to say, see, we told you it doesn't work. And so because we completely took self-medication and at-home treatments out of the conversation with our doctors altogether, there is no other choice but a prescription. Your doctor has to find a pill that he can write a prescription to you for. And that, to me, I think was the hugest breakdown. There's a lot of documentaries out there right now that show how bad doctors were treated in the last 50 years during this shift. The government basically told them to take your apples and go home, give them this pill. And that was the only choice doctors were left with.
Wow.
So I don't know if I was the victim of people who just didn't give a crap or a system that couldn't do anything different. You know what I mean? Because we're talking 17 years, at least 12 doctors. And every one of them kept me on the same treatment, believing that it was the best treatment that they had to offer. And I believe that's sad. You know what I mean? That's really, really sad that you were doing your best and you were still killing me.
Do you think that there is a shift nowadays a little bit to maybe them being a little bit more open-minded to cannabis as a medicine?
Yes. But I will tell you, I do have, so one of the things that I like to be able to do before I start counseling someone is make sure that we are aware of their health problems. So I have developed a network of doctors, specialists, and PAs that will do that. That will say, when you go in and you say, hey, look, Mama Bear sent me, I need to get my lab work done and get a physical and all that. They know you're planning to work with cannabis. They know you're planning to work with herbs. And so we'll do their labs and they'll give them a checkup and say, okay, they got some hypertension to watch out for, or they are just anything that they know I need to be aware of because of those or medications that they're on. Cause you have to be honest, you know what I mean, to make yourself better. And then and those people are fantastic, but they can't see people. They can't talk to them about it. They have to do the testing and send them to me. They cannot have those conversations with them sitting in the doctor's office. And that is the part that I think is terrifying. Now, mind you, I also live in a state where it's not legal. It's been decriminalized a lot here. It's been, but doctors can't openly talk to you about it. And so that they send, so they can't necessarily send them to me either. You know what I mean? So they're kind of stuck. But when I talk to these doctors, they are just open to everything. They want to learn all of it and they want to hear all of it because they understand the value of this double-blind study that people like me have been seeing. There's no reason for people like us to fudge the numbers. I don't sell anything. Why do I care whether you believe me or not? You know what? The 150 people that make sure that I am able to afford my herbs, they come whether you believe us or not. You know what I mean? But in order to spread the word, those kind of conversations, there's a lot more people who are open to it than we think there are. A lot more people. I have people from every walks of religion that come and they have to be quiet and they have to be secret and they make appointments or we do private phone calls so no one can know that they're talking to me about it. And it's just, and it's really unsettling, but I believe the reception is there if we can just get the stigma to down a little bit. And for doctors, it's not necessarily even what other people think. It's legal problems. They're afraid that it's going to cause actual legal problems if they get caught being on one side or the other of that debate.
Do you think that might change with making it a Schedule 3?
Yes, they're very excited about that opportunity because the one important thing about changing it to Schedule 3 is we don't have to stop talking anymore. We can talk openly and say, I heard cannabis took care of this and this and this and this and that and this and that and this. We don't have to be quiet anymore. We don't have to say it under our hands anymore because nobody can take the fact that you have knowledge and use that against you. We had a lot of help with that in the last 3 years. The government has really eased up on restrictions. That's why you and I are able to talk openly. I don't know if you remember this, but 5 years ago, this was illegal. We would have never been able to sit here and do this. No, ma'am. No, no, no. Anybody who publicly put information out saying that they had experience with cannabis could be prosecuted.
Wow.
And that's gone. They don't do that anymore. Yes, ma'am. So we've made
I didn't know
huge
that.
strides. We've made huge strides. Now, as a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but the worst we have to worry about now is the Facebook filters. You know what I mean? Using the wrong language so that we can talk about something without looking like, street dealers. We have to get around. But the legal problems of us talking aren't there anymore. And they used to be very strict. You could get told on for talking about pot in a grocery store checkout line. Yes, it used to be really bad, especially in smaller towns or uber religious towns. So I'm excited to see that go.
Yeah, I had no idea that we couldn't talk about it 5 years ago. I guess because I wasn't trying to be public about it
Right.
until now, really. So how do you feel about them putting it as a Schedule 3? Do you think that that's going to happen in 2024? Where are you at with it?
So like I said, the only reason why we're not going all the way legal is that we don't have a DUI test. We have to have a field test that's accurate, and they are working on it. They're very, very close. The federal government has given the number of 12% fail rate, and the last time they completed their test, they were at a 14% fail rate. So they're very close. But in the interim, allowing it to go from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 is going to allow people to be able to go and have those conversations with their doctors. It's going to be able to have an alternative, because like right now with the opioid crisis, there are a lot of people who are suffering right now. Doctors will immediately be able to give them cannabis to help them and get them off of all this other Stadol and all this other non-effective drugs that they're trying to use because the opioids were taken away. It will immediately be able to affect that. And it will also immediately be able to be used in addiction situations. So a lot of these people who have been on pain management, whether they like it or not, they're addicted to pain pills. We have no choice. You're chemically dependent on something that's going to help your body. There's nothing you can do about it, but they're not addicts. And cannabis will allow them to be able to make that switch and get away from those medications without going through those heavy addictive withdrawals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
very excited. And I really think that, like I said, there's not a whole lot of synthetic alternatives out there. They've tried and tried before. They have not been able to come up with one that isn't plant derived, that is safe.
Okay.
They have been
I-
using.
I remember this conversation with you specifically.
Yep.
THCO?
Oh, is
Okay,
the
let's
no
talk
no.
about that.
Yeah. So I don't know if y'all remember a couple years ago, they tried really hard to demonize THC vapes, that kids' lungs were collapsing and that all this kind of stuff. Now, mind you, I quit smoking, and this is my jewel pod. So that's how I was able to be successful so far with quitting smoking. So because of this, I don't use vapes, and I don't encourage them because we can't test them. But those incidences where their lungs were collapsing, they were using THCO vapes. And what THCO has nothing to do with cannabis. It is a completely lab made compound. And the legal states are outlawing it because it causes permanent psychosis. But the problem is they use that propaganda to tell you that it was THC and scare everybody, because they have been using derivatives of cannabis. So, for example, the cannabinoid that allows you to eat, that makes you hungry, they've been using that in these little gel pills for cancer patients for years. So they've been using parts of cannabis, just not the THC. Because the THC is the problem there. You have to use it from the plant. You cannot create it chemically. They have not successfully created it chemically in a safe form since. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with going from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 with a plant instead of an actual chemical that a lab can create. But what I believe is going to be the biggest difference for those of us is that because any patient with a condition that needs it will be able to go to their doctor and get this prescription, therefore they're not going to be able to pass a THC test. how many businesses do you know are going to weed through that? So like, I'm not sure if you know of anybody who has to be tested, but one of the major things is people who have ADHD. The medication that they take always pops positive. So they have to pull that sample, spend all the money. You have to go get your prescription from your doctor. You have to bring it in, prove that it was. While you're going through that, you're suspended from work until you bring your prescription, prove that it was supposed to be in there, and then you're cleared. 1, 2, 3, 4 days worth of work missed and all of this hoopla. And they're going to go for that for, you know what I'm saying? I believe that that ball is going to start rolling. And what it's going to cause is companies to stop testing for cannabis. Unless there is an incident like alcohol, you know what I mean?
They already are. They already
That's
are.
right.
Some
And
states
so,
are stopping.
and that's going to open it up to more and more people looking for information, okay, look, so seriously, all these people are talking about this. I want to know what this is. I want them to find the truth when they look. I want the information to be there when they look for it. I don't want them to be like, oh, I couldn't get an appointment, so I guess I don't know. You know what I mean? I want that information to be out there where they can find it. And so, step 1, step 2, how to try it, how you should, because for example, some people don't even know, okay, I took it. How should I feel? You know what I mean? What should happen? They don't even know at all. And so because they're not like drunk off of it, they think they're supposed to take more, or it's not working or whatever. So.
Yeah, and then they get too wasted from it.
That's right.
Because they've taken too much.
And then they've had a bad experience and they think that we're all, you know what I mean?
So, okay, how long do you think it will be until it's federally legal?
So I would love to say before the election. I really believe that that's what they're pushing for, because it's the only way that this current administration can give us any part of that promise but then again, like I said, the mouth swabs test, it's been at least 3 months since I heard of the last test going to 14. It could come out tomorrow and say, boom, we got it at 7. And that could change the race. You know what I mean? So, but I believe, unfortunately, we're going too slow when you're talking about money and all that kind of stuff. I don't ever really get into that, because that was something you should have done 10 years ago. If you're really looking to get rich quick in cannabis, you should have, it's like the internet bubble. You should have been back there. The Chinese have already gotten involved. Forget about it. It's over. But as far as healing medicine and going forward, I believe that's coming very quickly. But we're being a little bit, depending on what these people decide to do in the government, could interfere with that. But they don't have anything else that this is a huge election and this is a big ticket. And I believe that's going to be the driving force on getting it through, as long as there isn't someone or something in the court system that we don't see that's trying to roadblock it. But none of that information has come up. Like normally when we have had this debate with other administrations, someone has always presented themselves as the roadblock. You shall not pass. And we haven't had anybody present in this current situation as that person, as the person who will at all cost block us. So if we can get the right momentum going, and it's out of our hands now, you know what I mean? It's completely in the court system, and they'll get it. It has nothing to do with the government. It has nothing to do with any of them. So once it goes through the court system and the Supreme Court says, okay, we'll take it, then the DA, the home, all these other, they have to decide whether or not they're going to honor that decision. So once they make their decision, yes, we will, and no, we won't, it has to go from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. Then it has to go through a lawmaker process to change the laws associated with it, because it's no longer on it. So we are looking down the road to a good 18 months. But I believe that if that is something they want on their ticket for this election, I believe they will try to get it done inside of this term. I don't think it's going to be a ticket that they run on. Does that make sense? That would be bad for us, because that would mean that they're hoping that you vote them in so that they will do it. Well, that's what we did last time. You see what I'm saying? I don't see them doing that again this time and intentionally dragging it out. But the truth is that the science isn't quite there yet for legalization. I agree. We do have to be able to have a field test. And until we can have one that's accurate, not going to get a bunch of people in trouble. And then they have to decide what the accurate level is. Like, we have a point, whatever that system is for alcohol, we have to have the same system for cannabis, and it's going to have to be a fair system. You have somebody who takes 200 milligrams a day for pain control, but they're not high anymore. Those cannabinoids are still in their system. It doesn't necessarily mean they're high. So it'll be very interesting to see how they do that, how they get that done. So and what numbers that they come up with. But we still have a long way to go, but it's a huge shift. You know what I mean? It is a huge shift. And while we're waiting for all those numbers and all that stuff to go by, employers and doctors will start getting more relaxed. And that's where we'll see a big shift.
I think it's starting to happen now. Just the fact that we're able to come on here and talk about it. And, you know, when I was hired, they called me out pretty much in the interview and said, what's your connection to cannabis? Because I had it on my LinkedIn. I feel like it's starting to relax, but it's not. It's definitely, it's got a long way to go for sure.
Yep. And of course, you know, we have some areas that are doing better than others, that, you know, that are being stricter on others. But the consensus is that it was a lie. We know it was a lie, but now we have a problem. You know what I mean? And so everybody's really afraid to just open that gate. It's like they have this fear that we're going to turn into a bunch of just, you know, stoner zombies.
Yeah,
So, I mean, making it medically legal first is a good way to slow it down. But in all reality, it's not. Because if pharmaceuticals get a hold of cannabis and turn it into an unachievable prescription, street sales will just go right back up. But see, no matter what happens, education is the only way to fix all of it. You know what I'm saying? So I would rather educate. So I have a lot of elderly people. I would rather educate this lady on how to make her tea properly every day out of the stuff that she can get where she can get it than have to figure out how to help her buy this $800 a bottle prescription. You know what I mean? Because that's the part about cannabis that really frustrates me is it's so cheap. It's so cheap. And so once you start with a raw product that's complete, all you have to do is manual process to get it to where it needs to work. There's no reason anybody should be getting wealthy on cannabis. You know what I mean?
You were saying that it's legal in Texas to grow a plant?
Okay, so here's going to be some gray area, right? It is legal to grow a plant. It is not legal to process the plant. Okay. So if you have a big beautiful bush hanging out in your backyard and you get busted with it, they're not going to give you a ticket until it dies. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Once you have cut it and now it is consumable, that's where they get you. The growing of the plant is not illegal. But in Texas, one of the great things is, don't forget, it is legal to grow a CBD plant. You can grow your own CBD plant, and you need to be growing your own CBD plant. CBD is a vital missing component in our life, and it has CBD, CBN, CBG, so many different things. Just that plant, if that's all you took and you stayed completely away from real THC, just that plant can improve the quality of your life and your health in insurmountable ways.
All right, I have a question here. CBD plant. Can you explain that? So this is like hemp, and it's it's isolated to CBD and the other cannabinoids, but no THC? Is that what you're saying?
And there goes the problem. There goes the problem growing your own plant. In the state of Texas, it is legal to have below 0.5.
Yeah.
If you grow a big old beautiful CBD plant in your backyard and that plant grows with a 2% THC rating, you're illegal. You're outside of the legal ramifications. Do you see what I'm saying? So unfortunately, even though those things are not illegal, because our margins are so low with this 0.5, it's very easy to get caught above that margin in any area. You know what I'm saying? But it's not what they're looking for. You know what I'm saying? Keep in mind, they're not looking for the lady that's growing her CBD plant in the backyard. They're looking for the lady that's growing 10 of them to sell out the front door. Because right now what they're trying to do is just keep people away from drug dealers who have fentanyl. I'm not encouraging you to just willy-nilly grow. Make sure you're buying it. Like there are actually dispensaries here in Texas that you can buy the proper plant from. Some of them will give you a little potted plant. You'll sell you one or the seeds or whatever, but you can go to them and then that will help you be able to say, look, I tried to grow the right kind of plant. I went and through legal processes and I got it and I was able to grow it. But it is legal to grow. And if all you're going to do is grow your plant and take care of yourself in your house, nobody's going to give you any problems. The illegal selling is what everybody is stressed out about. And that's why I try really hard to focus on teaching you what to do with what you've acquired.
So how many can you have? Is it just one?
To my knowledge, it's still just one.
Okay. All right. So if you were to just talk to everybody and you could say anything, what would be the message that you feel you would want to get across to everyone that's listening?
If you don't know, don't talk about it. If you do not know the information that I know, that we know, that we're learning, if you don't know, if what I have said today is shocking to you and you didn't know all this, stop talking. Start learning. Stop talking and start learning. There's a lot of misinformation going around out there, and it's dangerous. It's just like everybody turning their nose up at CBD. You have to remember that CBD has its place and it's a miraculous drug, but we have pulled it apart. It's supposed to, so whole medicine, total cannabinoid medicine is both of those plants back together. So for example, if I was going to tell you how to do the perfect medicine, I would tell you to get this amount of a good THC flower and this amount of a CBD or CBG flower together. So we have to be talking about the whole plant together, not just what gets you the highest. And you know, people were really shocked about how much higher they could get on their recreational bowl when they added CBD to it. You know, so my daughter's 25 years old. She tells you it's the highest she's ever been is when she added CBD to her flower.
CBD makes you higher?
Yeah, together with THC.
With THC.
They're
Together.
meant to be
I didn't
together
know
because
that.
you have to remember they're all different cannabinoids. And when you're only taking one thing, you're only covering some of them. Well, then here comes this in here and it says, oh no, look, instead of all this extra that you've got left, we're going to turn it into something else and do this with it. And it's a full spectrum high. Full spectrum medicine is the best way to go.
I had no idea that CBD and THC.
That's because,
Combo
you know,
makes you
unfortunately,
higher.
the narrative has led us away from that because everybody's example was the cheap crap they got at the mall kiosk. You know what I mean? It's like, you're right, that isn't anything. But there is real medicine in CBD, and it's where you should start if you are interested in getting into cannabis.
Okay, I also heard this, so I want to see if you agree or disagree. I was told that if you're high, you get too high, and you want to come down, you could take CBD
That's
to
correct.
bring the level down.
Because like I said before, it comes in and it gets together with that those THC molecules and it does something different in your body. It doesn't cancel them out. It turns them into something else and does something else in your body. So it will level your high out. Yes, ma'am. The only way to stop a paranoid overdose of THC is actually peppercorns. The terpene that's in fresh peppercorns, if you chew a couple, now I'm talking about ground pepper, it has to have some life in it, just a jar of peppercorns. Chew a couple of them up in your mouth and then spit them out. That will bring your high down immediately. Yes.
Awesome.
The terpenes in that. So, for example, most people who get over high, the main problem that they have with it is they're paranoid. It makes them feel very paranoid. That will immediately bring that paranoia down. Sometimes you may have to do it more than once. Don't swallow them. Just chew them up in your mouth and then spit them out. Give it a minute. That will bring it down. But CBD does a great job of mellowing it out because it puts those cannabinoids together and puts them to work in different ways. So it doesn't ruin your high. It benefits your body in a way that it's able to use all that leftover. It's one of the reasons why you would fail a drug test is because you can only test on the excess. So if you were taking the exact perfect amount of CBD and THC every day, you may, after a couple of years, fail a drug test. It may build up a little bit, especially if you're a little bit of a fluffier person, but not unless you're abusing it. You know what I mean? That's the excess that we're breathing out that they're testing for. But yes, I highly recommend mix your CBD with your THC flower. And I'm not talking about Delta 8, Delta 9. I'm talking about non-chemically messed with plants. Try them and mix them back together with your flower. I think you'll like the effects.
You've hit on another one. Delta 9. How do we feel about all the deltas?
So I don't like the fact that we have opened the door to somebody chemically messing with our plant. It does not matter if one company is doing it perfectly. The copycats won't. And so because of that, it's dangerous as far as I'm concerned. Because the only way we can know if there's something wrong with it is after people have reported getting sick from it. They don't test it before they give it to you. You see what I'm saying? So we only know, it's, for example, one of the problems that we had with pods was using a chemical called vitamin E acetate. Well, it sounds like a great vitamin, right? Vitamin E is great for your skin. Well, it causes cauliflower lung in your lungs. Well, I can't test it to see if those chemicals are still there. And you can, but it's very expensive. You know what I'm saying? So that's something I will be doing is testing people's product. But it is expensive. It's about $13,000 for the right equipment. And you know as well as I do that these little mom and pop stores that are struggling aren't doing it, aren't testing it. And that's the problem that I have with anything that's been fooled with, is if you if it's not just plain flower, you can't know what happened to it. So I hate to say everybody stay away from it, because for some of us, it's the only choice we have. But please be very careful. If you feel any kind of way that you don't like when you're smoking it, immediately stop. Cannabis, Delta 8, and CBD should not give you a headache. It should not make you nauseous, and it should not give you the jitters. It isn't strong enough to do that. But it may make you very happy and sleepy. But if you feel any negative side effects when you're smoking that, just don't. And pay attention to what brands and where you're getting it from.
If I see Delta 9, I know that's THC, so it's safer. And
well, so
you were
what they've
telling me
done
it's
to
not.
no, what they've done to make it is they've taken industrial hemp, which is basically just a bleached plant that they're using for fibers, and then they spray the terpenes on that you already. We could turn basil into Delta 9 if we wanted to, because they're just adding the terpenes back onto it, which you could simply do by just getting a high quality CBD and then adding higher terpenes. It's not the THC that you guys are like, wow, this is great. No, it's the shit they're spraying it with. So they're taking an already very low quality product, and then they're spraying chemicals on it to beef it up to that legal number. So you can't grow Delta 9. You have to make Delta 9. And in order to make it cheaper to make Delta 9, since you're already going to treat it, they start out with the cheapest bleached industrial hemp that they can.
Which Delta is THC? Like the real...
Oh, well, so Delta 10 is the one that was supposed to be exactly like THC, and right now a lot of the places in other than legal areas they're trying to advertise THCA, and the difference is everything is THCA. It's THC acid. Same with CBD, CBDA, CBD acid. Until you light it on fire and go through a process called decarboxylation, it doesn't have the active ingredient. So, for example, one of the things that is exciting about treatment with THC in pets, children, and adults is that you don't have to decarb that. You do not have to activate that THC to work. You can give them THCA and it still has extreme medical properties and benefits, but they're not getting the head high that they get with the THC. So that is when you have to switch that over.
I saw Phoebe. Did you have a question?
I have so many questions, but I feel like we're going to have to
write them all
Shannon
down, guys.
again.
Write them all down and we'll talk about all of them.
Yeah, I feel like we'll have to have you on again for sure. I guess I'm just wondering, because we've talked a lot about pain management, using it for pain management, and I'm wondering what other types of issues, do you feel like it's beneficial in treatment?
So far, I have not found one that it doesn't work on. What I have found is conditions that need to be very careful. These conditions because of the dosing and the strains and the different kind, your treatment may not look completely different than another person's treatment. And so I haven't found a condition that it doesn't necessarily work on, because it works on the most important part of our health, and that's our cortisol. It works on balancing our hormones. But I have seen people make themselves sick by not properly utilizing it. Or like people just go through that Delta 8 and that Delta 9 and they just smoke it. Well, now you're dealing with the other byproducts that are inside there that you're building up in your body. You know what I mean? So that's when the whole medicine comes in. Are you doing different things to cleanse your body and make yourself healthier?
You said balancing hormones, which obviously went off in my head as menopause. Do people come to you and try to help balance that way? Because I know that they're using drugs now.
Yeah. What I will tell you is out of the 32 of us in my little group that are going through either perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopausal, none of us have had to turn to medical needs.
Really?
None of us. None of us went on any medications and hormone therapy placement, nothing. All of us used plant medicine and were able to get through it, because you have to remember, when your body and your mind are calmer, you are not so extreme, these extreme switches, these extreme occurrences, these extreme problems that you're having. They're mild, but at the same time, you are mentally prepared to say, hey, I know why I'm being a bitch today. I'll just deal with it. It's okay. I can, and instead of being like, what's wrong with me? Why? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And this terror that something's wrong with you, it really has. But like I said, give a person grace, but we haven't had to use any chemical hormones out of the 36 of us. None of us have.
That is some good news. And I know a lot of people, especially, my friends, I just turned 50 last weekend.
Yeah.
So we're all looking at this and we're wondering what's going to happen.
And I would recommend with those kind of symptoms, feel free to always talk to your doctor, especially if you have one that you can trust. Always talk to your doctor. However, be cautious of a doctor who's quick to prescribe and ask them, why are you already wanting me to take hormones? What is that benefit? Because there are no safe hormones. Hormones should be used as a last resort. Your body should naturally be able to go through this process. But your pre-existing conditions coming into menopause may cause that not to be possible. So make sure that you're coming into menopause healthy, educated, and talk to your doctor. Make sure you have your cholesterol numbers in high so that you can monitor your heart. That's a very dangerous thing. We get a lot of weird symptoms that can mask heart attacks. Make sure that you're well educated, but be very slow to medicate. Very slow to medicate, because your body is going to go through this naturally. For thousands of years, it didn't need their foolery. It doesn't need it now. And if you'll notice, it's not helping. They're not helping women get through menopause better than they were getting through before. They're just causing a lot more problems with late life cancers. So I highly recommend keeping in touch with your doctor, but make sure you're talking to a doctor that will allow you to only do what you need to do and encourages you to live a healthy lifestyle first.
Yeah, I haven't had any symptoms yet, as far as like hot sweats or night sweats, and I mean, I'm always kind of crazy, so you never know. I mean,
and some of it you just have to deal with, like night sweats. Nothing helps night sweats. There's all kinds of tricks to the trade to cool you off, and we have all kinds of things that we've taught each other, but nothing fixes it. Yeah.
Nothing fixes it.
Nothing makes it go away. No, but you can make it way milder, honey, way milder. Like I said, every once in a while, one of us will twist off and complain about something, but it's very mild and very short-lived. And, but like I said, that's not for everybody. Talk to your doctor so that you can know whether or not you're dealing with something that's outside of the ordinary that you need help with.
So you work with, you guys do painting. Is that part of your business?
So I've done pour painting for years. That's my stress relief. That's my mental therapy. And so now what I'm trying to do is get started inviting all of you guys to come and paint with me and bring your product with you. So instead of drinking while we paint, like they have painting with a twist, you bring your own wine, you can bring your own herb to my shop and we can enjoy, a little elevated painting fun.
I love that.
Hopefully y'all get to come down and paint with me one day. I think it would be a blast. I would love it.
We're going to, right?
I would love it, baby. Anytime. Y'all just tell me where to go so I have a crash pad for you. We got it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I met you guys. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to people. I can't wait to get this information out. I really think people need this. And I'm going to start sending you guys some links to some videos that you guys can tell me whether or not you guys want to discuss on here. Of videos that I'm going to be making just with information in them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're definitely down to collaborate. And we're doing this for a good cause, and so the more people doing it, especially in our state or even neighboring states, we all want to be a part of it. So if anybody's out there listening and they want to be able to reach Shannon, please reach out and we will make sure that you guys get connected.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. We appreciate you being here.
I look forward to seeing y'all again, guys.
Us
Bye.
too.
So much.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
This episode of Code Green Plant was sponsored by Simply Vibin LLC. Code Green Plant is a Simply Vibin production hosted by Christy Chanel along with her co-host Phoebe James. This podcast is not intended to be used for medical advice and is solely the opinion of the host. Please consult your physician. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to follow us on social media. Want more? Visit www.simplyvibin.com. And a special thank you to the core group of people who helped with the creation of the Code Green Plant podcast. We appreciate you simply vibing with us.
Code Green Plant.